Age. You'll hear a lot that age is just a number. And it's not how old you are, it's how old you look and how old you feel. And while that sounds nice, ultimately, age is a number representing how old you are, how many years you've had on the earth, and potentially how close you are to your own mortality. I know that sounds really morbid to say, but I mean, it just means what it means. And we talk about that in terms of prospects, specifically for the NFL. In an ideal world, everybody would draft would be somewhere between 20 to 22 years of age, because you're anticipating being able to get at least a decade out of them. That's the hope when you would draft them, that you're looking at them as some type of 8 to 12 year player for you. And drafting them somewhere between the age of 20 to 22 makes it much more likely that they would be able to just do that. And if a prospect starts getting any older, it doesn't mean that they suck. It doesn't mean that they still can't play and they can't contribute at a high level for you or be a productive player for years. You just look at the draft pick invested versus the amount of possible return on that investment. And as the prospect gets older, the window for them to be able to at least match up gets smaller. So age in terms of NFL prospects is not necessarily just a number. And sometimes it can be a major impediment to guys. They can't control how old they are. They just are what they are. One of the common things you hear about Calvin Ridley was he was a junior, but he's going to be 24 years old as a rookie. And it brings all types of questions into it, and understandably so. And that's the reality, is how high of a pick are you going to spend on a guy when he's already 24 years of age as a rookie? It's a fair question. And it's going to be a question you hear a lot about when it comes to Hayden Hurst, the tight end from South Carolina. Talking about a dude that's already 24, he's going to be 25 years old as a rookie. The real challenge for teams is going to be how comfortable they are with his age in terms of relations to how much mileage he has from a football sense on his body, how quickly they can get him to his maximum upside, how long he could potentially stay at his ceiling, and just how high that ceiling is. But I'm going to tell you this much about Hayden Hurst. When that age kicks rocks and you don't factor in that age, there is a lot to like about this guy. And to me, I've seen other people talk about Gesicki as the number one tight end in this class. And I've actually seen recently on Twitter some people opining that they wouldn't classify Hurst as one of their top 5 tight ends in this class. And to me, that's just completely asinine and crazy. And I truly wonder what the hell other people are watching that I'm not. And I could be wrong, but clearly we're not watching the same prospect. Because to me, beyond question, the best prospect at the tight end position in the 2018 NFL Draft is Hayden Hurst, period. And when you take out the age factor, it wouldn't even be that close. He's got really good size for the position. He's a quality athlete, decent quickness, decent speed that shows up and flashes on film time after time after time after time. And along with that athleticism, that quickness, and that speed, he's really effective after the catch. He's a guy that can run by people. He's a guy that can make some people miss. He's a guy that plays hard with some toughness. He will run through some people. He just really jumps out on film to me as a guy that I would want on my team. He's a reliable hands catcher, as I've talked about with so many of the wide receivers in this year's draft class. You ain't getting that out of them already, and you might never get it out of them. He's a guy that was a reliable catcher of the football, reliable catching the football with his hands, and also had a big, huge catch radius and could go make some spectacular catches. It just wasn't the basic catches. He could make some big-time, spectacular, tough catches that, frankly, you're going to need a tight end to do in the red zone when he's going over the middle of the field. You got to have that guy that wants that ball and goes and gets that ball, and Hayden Hurst does that. And when we talk about the tight end position and we talk about blocking, he's not perfect, but he sure is a lot better as a blocker than a lot of the other big-name tight ends in this draft class. That's for damn sure. He's a guy that can actually come in and contribute right away as a 3-down tight end because of his athleticism and his willingness and ability as a blocker. And he's still got room to improve there. So when you take in the athleticism traits when you take into account his ability to catch the ball and his ability to block, like, to me, it sets him up heads and shoulders above everybody else in terms of pure football prospect at the tight end position this year. Yeah, he's got stuff he's got to work on still, and this is part of the concern. He doesn't have a huge route tree. He's going to need to expand his route tree and improve on the routes that he does run, and I think part of that was a reflection of the South Carolina system and what they asked him to do, because he was a quality blocker. They asked him to stay in the lot to block, so he wasn't as productive of a pass catcher as he could be and should have been. One thing I will say about him as a blocker, too, is at the college level, he could get by a lot more on will than just pure skill, but he's going to have to improve his skill as a blocker, specifically working on getting his pad level lower, because at times he could be susceptible to getting pushed back. At times he can get off balance. He's got to get that pad level a little bit lower for him to reach his full effectiveness as a blocker. And then we come to the age thing, and this is going to be the biggest huckleberry for him, or the biggest matzo ball hanging out there over Hayden Hurst. He's already 24. He's going to be 25 years old as a rookie. Regardless of the talent level, how badly do you want the guy to potentially invest a first-round pick on somebody who in 5-6 years is already going to be 30 damn years of age? When you, in theory, believe that players start to decrease in terms of their abilities and their physical abilities and their ability to produce in the NFL. So whereas you could find somebody in this class that was 21, 22 years of age that you could get 8, 9, 10 seasons out of before they reach the age of 30, you're talking about Hayden Hurst giving you 5 or 6 and he's already there. So there's significantly less upside in terms of the length potentially of his ceiling, even though he's this old as a rookie, in part because of the time he spent playing baseball in the Pirates minor league system for a couple of years. So it's not like he has a ton more football mileage on his body than anybody else. But he's still going to be 25 years of age this year. And when you look at a guy like him and the age that he already is, that's the age that a lot of guys in the NFL are in their 4th or 5th season, and he's going to be a rookie. So from an age standpoint, he's going to be significantly behind. And with his age, how much upside is there to really improve? Again, I think that is a fair question to ask. But when I look at him still, I come back to the fact that even though I don't feel like he was always fully utilized properly as a pass catcher in college, minus the age, to me, he's clearly the top tight end prospect in this draft class. Clearly. And I also look at him and see him as a guy that would be able to contribute immediately as a 3-down tight end because he's athletic enough to get by some of the flaws that he has as a route runner right now. And he can contribute enough as a blocker that you don't view him as a total liability. So you can keep him out there all the time. And how far does the talent drop in your eyes due to the age concerns? For some teams, he might not even be on the draft board. For some teams, he might be a day 3 guy. But there's going to be a couple of teams, late first, early second, that look at him and say, this guy can play, age or not. He's going to help us immediately, and I'd rather get a guy that gives me 6 to 8 pretty good years that run the risk on some 21 or 22-year-old project that might not ever be able to play at a decent level in the NFL. Which would you rather have? I'd rather take a guy, especially at the early portion of round 2, and say, hey, this guy might not be a superstar, but he can play well right away immediately and still give me over half a decade at the position. And when you look at some of the teams that are picking like in the tail end of round 1, if you were looking for a tight end, I mean, here's a guy that maybe it doesn't matter what his age is as much because you're looking for a guy that can contribute immediately. And I truly feel like Hayden Hurst can. Like I said, he's my number 1 tight end in this class. When I watch him on film, he reminds me a bit of O.J. Howard. He's not quite as good of a blocker as O.J. Howard. He's not quite as quick or fast as O.J. Howard, but there were plenty of similarities on film between the two of them where I could say like he was a slightly poor man's version of O.J. Howard. My grade for him, pretty similar to O.J. Howard if I recall correctly, was a 91.0. So I've got him as my number 1 tight end in this draft class, and I'm not going to budge from that. I'm just not. The grade is what the grade is. Now, the grade versus where I would take the prospect might be a little bit different. Depending on the situation, I probably would be more comfortable taking Hayden Hurst somewhere between pick 35 and 45 because of the age. But I'm not going to be foolish and pass on him multiple times because of the age when I know he can play and he contribute right away. And frankly, in today's NFL, many times these teams get these guys, draft them, and 3 or 4 years later, when they get ready for free agency, they're gone anyway. So what the hell difference does it make? Draft the guy that you feel like can contribute and play right away. That's what I feel like you could do with Hayden Hurst. Don't sleep on the dude because he's a bit older. He's got the goods, in my opinion, to be a pretty good NFL tight end.